Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Lily and I primarily draw in gouache. Today I'm going to be doing a video of a gouache painting and then layering it over with Neocolors. So I have Neocolors that I purchased a long time ago and I haven't used them. Basically, I've only used them here once or twice. I think I was going to sell them at one point, but I decided to give them a try today because I wanted to add a little texture and I wanted to see if maybe this was a good thing. Maybe in the future I would go ahead and do a little bit more of these Neocolor overlays over the gouache. Nonetheless, I will tell you in the end of the video what I think about it and what conclusions I came to. But if you came to this video, you're not really interested in Neocolors, are you? You're interested in the big topic of the title, which is why art halls are a problem for you. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and preface that art halls in themselves are not necessarily an issue. However, the overconsumption of art halls does become an issue. And here's why. Although art hall videos can be very entertaining and I would recommend them if you want to relax, if you highly depend on them in order to get inspired to do art, that in itself is a problem. The tool should never be the inspiration. The subject should be the inspiration, the passion behind it and the process should be the inspiration. So when you draw inspiration from the tools, you're no longer really an artist. You're more like a hoarder or a collector. And you can be a collector, that's totally fine. That can be your thing. However, I'm pretty sure that you probably started doing art because of art itself, not necessarily the tools that you use to create art. And for that reason, there is a problem when you start watching art halls in order to get inspiration and you feel the need to go to the art store and buy a couple products just so that you can create that piece that that person created or something like that piece that the person created. Let's say you go ahead and you do that piece, you're happy with it, or maybe you don't even do that. But let's just say for the sake of it that you did actually do a piece with that supply that you bought. Okay, then next you watch a video and there's a new supply. So you want to go ahead and test out that new supply too. Okay, so you do another one. However, the problem lies in that you don't ever really get to understand and learn this first supply that you started out with. And I recommend if you like something, if you feel that the process of doing something with that tool is good, then stick with it long enough to learn how to use it properly. A lot of times you don't like an art medium because you don't know how to use it. One example is watercolor. Watercolor can be very tricky and can test the patience of somebody who doesn't understand how to use it properly. For example, the biggest example that I can think of is not waiting for layers to dry and then having those nasty splotchy looks everywhere. So yeah, it takes time to master a medium and you can't do that when you're jumping from one to the other. If you think of many of the most famous traditional artists, a lot of them didn't have the ability to go ahead and buy a supply that they wanted on the spot. Most of the time, they had to go and visit another place to get it. Most of the time, they had to save up money for it because a lot of times in their lifetime, they didn't even make money off of their art. So that is to say that they made do with what they had. And because they made do with what they had, they mastered it. The next thing that you have to remember is that we only have limited time on this earth, limited time to be great at what we do or to enjoy what we do thoroughly and have comfort in what we do rather than being anxious or worried about it. Make it fun for you. And one of the things that you need to, in order to make it fun for you, is to learn which subjects you like to draw, learn what style you like to draw in. Now, I do not recommend you go on Pinterest and look at other people's art extensively because you will always be jumping from style to style. But I do recommend that you start with subjects. Learn what subjects you like to draw and then go from there. This in itself might take a long time for you to figure out. So you might as well remove one of those distractions, which would be the tools that you use, and focus on the subjects and the things that matter to you most. In other words, be known for something, not for everything. Another problem with art halls can be information paralysis. When you have too many tools at hand, you oftentimes become paralyzed. You don't know exactly what to do or what to do with them. You find yourself overwhelmed and you can't really make anything because everything that you make is loaded with fear and loaded with pressure, and it really doesn't do well with art. In art, you have to have a sense of comfort. You can't just be paralyzed in fear. Some things, it's good to have pressure, but I feel that art, a lot of times, pressure is not always a good thing in art. When you're free and flowing and things are just easily going, it's easy to create something that you're proud of versus when you feel that you have to keep up or you have to do something great. That expectation a lot of times I find has ruined a lot of pieces for me. Shoot, a perfect example of that is when I overplan something. When I plan something way too often, it just doesn't come out the way I would like it, and I just kind of just stop doing it in the middle of the piece, and I just leave it and don't really go back to it. You can often find yourself in that same dilemma when you're going back and forth between art tools, because there's this level of tension and level of pressure to do great with this art tool. Whereas if you're comfortable with a piece of medium, then you are able to create something in a way that is more freeing and a way that flows better. Now, I don't want to leave you just analyzing the problem, but also with a solution. And the first one is sometimes you need to take a break and not watch art hauls for the sake of your mental health. If you're feeling overwhelmed, do yourself a favor and stop watching art hauls for maybe a week or two, and then see how you feel when you go back to it. If you get that dreaded feeling again, as if I'm doing something wrong or I'm wasting my time or this is not conducive of my journey into creating great art, then stop and take a break. Again, another tip I'd like to offer is do not throw away the art supplies that you own right now. This is not the time to declutter. This is the time to figure out what you like to do with the things that you have already. If they are a vast amount of things and that in itself overwhelms you, then yes, you can get rid of the things that you use less. And here's a tip. If you haven't used it in 6 months, it's probably not necessary to venture into that, and you can probably go ahead and throw it in the trash or donate it, or do whatever you have to do to keep it away from you. Limitation is a good thing. Third tip is try drawing the same subject in different mediums and see how you enjoy the process. Enjoying the process is key. If you don't enjoy the process but you do enjoy the outcome, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't want to spend the rest of your life doing something that you don't enjoy doing for the sake of beauty or for the sake of notoriety or whatever it is that you want to get out of it. Once you've narrowed down the tools that you do like or the mediums that you do like to use, try using them for a week or two. Try learning more about them. This is a stage where you should think, okay, if I could only use this medium in my lifetime, would I be happy with it? You can also try mixing 1 or 2 mediums together, 2 or 3. You can try mixing those together too. You could do mixed media pieces, and that's totally fine. But the point is that once you hone into these mediums, learn about them and study them so that you can perfect them, or at least get better to the point where they no longer become as frustrating as they did in the beginning to work with. I'm going to recommend a book called The Paradox of Choice. I haven't listened to it yet. I am going to start listening to it on Audible, but it's about the concept of less is more. I think it applies very well to this subject. My last recommendation is going to be to stay away from social media for a while and stay away from other artists' art styles and looking at other artists' work, because honestly, a lot of times it can be very discouraging when you're trying to work your way up. And also, it can also deter you from the style and from the art that you naturally do. Now let's go back to this picture. I think I realized that working with neocolors is great if I'm doing a large space. If I'm doing a smaller space or I'm doing more detailed illustrations, colored pencil is probably better for me, and also dry brush techniques with gouache. Generally, I just enjoy using gouache more than any other medium, so I try to stick to it and I try to find ways to create the texture with it rather than moving on to something else, because I don't generally enjoy colored pencils or crayons or wax pastels. So it's safe to say that the verdict for this is that I'll probably just stick to using dry brush techniques with gouache and a little colored pencil here and there. Although I do have to say that I enjoy how it came out. I didn't enjoy the process, so therefore I have to be true to myself. Like I said in this video, I have to stick to what I enjoy doing if I want to do it for a long time. So as we're coming to an end to this video, I just want to encourage you, if you're feeling overwhelmed, remember that you sometimes have to step back and just enjoy the process of art again. And in order to do that, you have to limit yourself sometimes. You have to take a little fast. You have to think, let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the basics, because obviously I've run into this rabbit hole and I need to pick myself up and then start enjoying things the way that I used to. So yeah, guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Cancel the outside noise and keep painting.